This channel is a soft vessel, a place to drift quietly forward in time, a place to imagine not the dazzling spectacle of rockets or empires, but something gentler, something domestic, personal, familiar, in ways that make you blink twice. Tonight, we journey to the year 3000, not through numbers, not through charts, but through scent, through the invisible, the intimate, the barely noticed. You see, future isn't just made of machines, it's made of moods, and by the 31st century, humanity has finally embraced something it overlooked for millennia, our sense of smell, not as a leftover evolutionary quirk, but as a tool of memory, emotion, even governance. In the year 3000, scent isn't just something you notice, it's something you choose, something you program like light or heat, something you use to express identity, to negotiate intimacy, to secure access, not to heal. It's part of your passport, your profile, your medical record, your home. As you'll see, not see, this invisible thread weaves through every corner of life. Over the next 2 hours, we'll follow this thread. We'll begin with the daily routine of someone who lives in Istanbul, in the year 3000, where every inhale begins a story. Then, we'll trace the story of the innovators who reshaped scent from decoration into data. We'll enter strange frontiers, silent zones where smell disappears entirely and nobody knows why. And finally, we'll step inside the contrasting lives of those who rejected it, all those who still believe. Scent belongs to nature, not to code. But for now, breathe in, not sharply, just slowly. Let the idea drift in like fog across warm stone. This is Midnight Futurist, and this is what you might smell in the year 3000. You wake slowly not because you must, but because you can. Your sleep shell is shaped like a lotus, soft and self-adjusting, built from memory-responsive fibers that hold your posture like a gentle exhale. The surrounding pod is silent except for the low vibration of the biofilter's shifting modes. You feel it before you hear it, a subtle pulse along your back, as the shell breathes you out of sleep. There's no alarm, not in this future. Mornings don't begin with sound anymore. They begin with scent. A fine, translucent mist rises from the shell's headrest. This is clear. Begin your custom waking plan, sequenced by your circadian record and neurofeedback over the past 6 months. It contains a precise ratio, 11 parts bergamot, 4 parts memory-soaked pine, a hint of steamed honey, and just today a trace molecule called Dawn salt, a biosynthetic designed to mimic the smell of light on old stone. It doesn't jolt you awake. It guides you there, gently, like someone opening a window inside your body. You don't even open your eyes at first. You don't need to. The scent tells you the time, the temperature, the season. Today is warm. There will be light winds. Your pulse track through the shell's breath sensor suggests you slept more deeply than usual. That may affect your memory texture for the next few hours. You'll be gently reminded of this by your apartment if needed. The walls around you begin to shift from opaque to translucent. Sunlight streams in, but not the way we know it. The glass here isn't clear. It's tuned to allow light through in moods, not frequencies. You don't get morning light. You get steady optimism with low anxiety. That's what your settings call for today. You sit up. The shell folds inward as if bowing, allowing you to step onto a moss-woven floor. Your bare feet sink slightly into the bioskin fabric, activating a release of musk and grounding herbs. This is your anchor scent coded to confirm that you've officially transitioned from the sleep state. It lingers only briefly, but it tells the house you're conscious. It tells your identity stream to resume. It tells your scent print server to begin transmitting again. Yes, your scent is digital now. It always has been, technically, but now it's formalized, indexed, stored in the global olfactory mesh, updated every 48 hours, and cross-referenced with health, emotion, and spatial data. It's how your door unlocks. It's how your elevators read consent. It's how people know you're real. In a world of so many simulations, the mirror lights up not with reflection, but with fragrance. It releases a slow breath of your base note, warm vanilla threaded with mineral ash and aged cedar. That's your foundation. It won't change unless you authorize it. Above that, the overlays, your recent memories, your residual emotional impressions, even your pre-dream neural residues. It's scent itself. You walk toward the breakfast node. Has already begun to pulse gently, rhythmically, an invitation to select your sensory profile for the meal. You don't taste food in 3000. Not directly. You experience it through aroma and texture modulation. Today, you're given 3 paths: cognitive clarity, sharp, mint forward with citrus oil trailing; resonant calm, mellow, mossy, traces of warm fruit; detached focus, cold; metallic vanilla with a whisper of synthetic incense. You choose the second. You always do on Thursdays, as the breakfast sphere forms in the dispenser woven from spiced proteins and vapor milk. You lean against the balcony edge. It's open today. The wind, faint but constant, carries with it the public atmospheric blend for this district: civic harmony. It's a legally mandated mix, gently regulating emotional sync across neighborhoods. You inhale deeply, but it's not a conscious decision. It's part of the experience. You smell your city, and your city smells you back. Outside, the skyline glistens, domes and towers layered in moss and shimmerstone, each emitting their own soft trails of scent meant to reflect status, community, and function. A hospital emits calm, citrus; a school smells faintly of chalk and almond; a bank oddly of blankness; a scentless space, an invitation to forget desire. A boy runs past below, trailing joy loop number 7, the scent equivalent of laughter. A drone drifts over the canal, spraying a mist of civic neutrality ahead of a policy meeting. And high above, a weather balloon unfolds its petals, releasing pre-rain recall into the upper atmosphere, triggering nostalgia across the city with soft hints of storm-soaked leaves. Everything here smells like something. Every something has a reason, even you. As your day begins, your scent print becomes part of the larger map, a single drifting signal in the silent perfume of a world that no longer just looks like the future. It breathes it. The future smells different. It's because one person imagined it could. Her name was Lira Halden, a chemist by degree, a sculptor by instinct, and by the end of her life, the unspoken architect of what we now call the olfactory web. She was not loud, not charismatic, not particularly comfortable on camera, but if you live in the year 3000 and you breathe in anything that moves you, you're breathing part of her legacy. Lira Halden was born in 2961 in the Lower Bay settlement of northern Zealand, what was once coastal Denmark. By then, concept of air quality had already evolved beyond pollution metrics. Cities no longer tracked parts per million of carbon dioxide alone. They measured emotional latency, chemical memory, residual signal scent. All these were considered components of wellness. And yet, scent remained decorative, used for branding or mood or luxury. It was not considered essential, not systemic. But Lira saw something else. As a teenager, she noticed something curious. Her grandmother, who suffered from advanced neurodegeneration, couldn't remember names or faces, but she could recall entire stories when exposed to specific smells. The cinnamon soap of her childhood kitchen, the burnt lavender from a long-gone beach cafe, the pine blend used in early generation learning gloves. Each one unlocked something: a personality shard, a timeline, a sentence. It haunted Lira. She asked herself, if smell could reach memory where words could not, what else could it do? And so began what she would later call the Quiet Project, an informal, decade-long effort to track and catalog scent-triggered cognition. She interviewed thousands across climate islands, orbital platforms, and refugee corridors. She found patterns, some cultural, some universal, some almost genetic. By her late 20s, Lira had developed what she coined as the Memory Reactive Molecular Map, or MRMM. It was the first attempt to scientifically link specific scent clusters to emotional states across diverse populations. She wasn't the first to speculate on the connection, of course, but she was the first to build a working, reproducible framework. She did not stop there. In the year 2988, Halden presented her findings at the now famous Dawn Assembly, a rare cross-disciplinary summit of neural engineers, quantum archivists, and biome designers. Her paper, titled Toward a Functional Olfactory Interface, Translating Emotion into Molecule, was initially met with polite confusion. Most attendees expected another smart perfume pitch, but as she walked through her scent data overlays, animated and immersive mist formed, something shifted. The room, it is said, fell silent, not from awe, but from recognition. People didn't need convincing, they already felt it. That day, Lira was offered something unheard of: a triple lateral grant spanning neurotech, municipal systems, and memory law. She declined the formal awards. Instead, she requested unrestricted access to decommissioned biospheres, abandoned, sealed test environments from the Earth climate stabilization phase. She would build her prototype city there, and she did, in the shell of Biosony 14 once used to simulate rainforest collapse. She constructed a place called Ozma. No one lives there now. It exists only in archive and ambient recording. But for 12 years, it functioned as a living laboratory, every surface, every light beam, every interface coated with scent. Not in overpowering waves, but in gradients, trails, echoes. The door to each room was unlocked by your base scent print. Your mood regulated how fast lights dimmed. Public announcements were carried not by sound, but by invisible vapor streams that gently nudged the nose and told the mind to listen. Even conflict was moderated through scent. Residents experiencing elevated aggression would trigger a slow-release mist of disarmament. Blends cooling, grounding, dissociative. It was subtle, often imperceptible, but it worked. When someone passed away, as they sometimes did due to age or illness, no bells rang, no screens flashed. Instead, the hallway would fill with that individual as recorded life trail, a blend of their emotional landscape. Mapped over time, it wasn't strong, just a whisper, enough for others to notice, pause, and silently say goodbye. Word of Ozma spread, quietly. There was no marketing, no logo, just scent samples distributed like art. By 2999, olfactory protocols had become standardized. Cities adopted them, hospitals demanded them, even spacecraft, where confinement and memory loss had been a recurring issue, began to install modular scent interfaces. The olfactory web became as fundamental as the oxygen regulators themselves. In Lira Halden, she returned to the sea, to her home coast. She declined honorary AI resurrection. Her scent print was archived, yes, but never replicated. It was her only request that the future remember her work, but not her presence. If you ever walk through a government building and smell honeysuckle and antique paper, or enter a waiting room and catch a breeze of camphor and hope, that's her. Not a statue, not a code string, a breath, a choice. Future imagined by someone who saw scent not as decoration, but as language. For a world that speaks in scent, silence is not quiet, it's absence. And nowhere is that more unnerving than in the scentless zones. You may have heard whispers, anomalies buried in maintenance logs, traveler journals or urban myth forums, tiny patches of Earth orbit, even subsurface colonies where scent doesn't register, where the air is breathable, yes, but blank, where no fragrance clings to fabric, no perfume triggers memory, no identity signature can be validated, where even fear leaves no trace. They are not always large. Some are only a few meters wide, on a hill near the ruins of Marseille or along a canal path in the Ganges Crescent. Others are drifting bands slowly rotating through the lower atmosphere, tracked by satellites but untouchable from the ground. The earliest confirmed scentless zone was documented in 2977. During a scent print calibration test in the Alaskan Boreal Vaults, a technician named Emery Tao noticed a glitch. His system failed to recognize the scent print of 5 volunteers inside a preservation dome. At first, the assumption was software failure, then biological, then environmental. But the truth was stranger. The air was still rich with oxygen, carbon balance normal. No pollution traces, yet all olfactory signals flatlined. No bass note, no emotional overlay, not even the ambient blends usually lingering in skin or fabric. It was as if the molecules themselves had forgotten how to mean. Since then, nearly 3 dozen confirmed scentless zones have been identified across the planet, 10-3 in orbit. Each one has been different in shape, size, and duration. Some fade within days. Others remain for years, like soft holes punched in the atmospheric language of civilization. But what causes them? Theories vary. One camp suggests a quantum memory fault regions, where ambient molecular vibrations have collapsed into uniformity, erasing the complexity required for scent encoding. In simpler terms, the air still is, but it can no longer say. Others believe the zones represent a kind of neurological bleed areas where collective emotional residue has been wiped by trauma or suppression, places where the air remembers too much and chooses silence. Still others, less popular but persistent, think these are not malfunctions at all, that the zones are intentional, that they are artificial quiet rooms seeded long ago, designed to offer respite or warnings. What is known is that electronic scent readers go blind. Within them, identity cannot be verified. Doors won't open. Messages do not transmit via olfactory route. Humans inside the zones report a strange sensation, not panic, but a drifting detachment, a feeling of being unanchored, untethered. No memory cues, no emotional scaffolding, just breath and blankness. Some artists seek them out. They walk the edges of scentless zones barefoot, trying to sketch the moment the scent disappears. Others fear them. Entire villages in the Sahelian Strip relocated after one such zone passed over their fields, leaving no trace of harvest, no flavor in food, no incense in prayer. Governments monitor them, quietly, not officially, not through news feeds, but through background infrastructure. Traffic is rerouted. Smart fabrics fail to deliver daily mood regulation. Drone paths subtly shift to unconfirmed reports of a scentless zone, forming aboard a Mars logistics platform in 2998. The crew journal scrubbed from public. Archive was recovered partially, describing a slow flattening of presence. One crew member wrote, "It's like the air has lost its memory of us. We touch things, but they don't respond." I held a photo of my son. It smelled like nothing. After the incident, that section of the platform was sealed. Permanently, no press statement, just a change in docking protocol. But what if the zones are not accidental? What if they're necessary? Drells Vermeer, a leading scent anthropologist and protege of Lira Halden, once proposed that these zones are the dreamless sleep of cities. As systems grow layers of memory, scent, emotion, they require reset states, a place to unsense, to forget, to allow new patterns to form. Or perhaps these are simply scars, wounds in the biosphere, memory fractures too subtle for sound, but obvious in scent. Either way, they remain unsolved, uncontrolled, and profoundly human in their effect. To live in a world shaped by scent is to know when it's missing. To step into a zone where nothing greets your nose is to step into the unknown. In a future where every identity, emotion, and memory is traceable through breath, these places offer something radical: obscurity, disappearance, anonymity, and perhaps, just perhaps, relief. While most of the world breathes in a future tuned molecule by molecule, there are still places and people who have chosen silence, not the silence of scentless zones, where molecules forget. This is a different kind of silence, a choice, a rejection. They are known by many names: the neutralists, the pale breath, the still air houses, but they call themselves the unscented. Their homes do not emit ambient emotion. Their clothing is woven from untreated fabrics. Their skin carries only what the earth offers directly: smoke, clay, sweat, moss. No overlays, no filters, no scent print tags. They live outside the web. To visit one of their communities, if you're invited, is to step into a place that feels at once ancient and quietly defiant. Imagine no welcoming plan when you arrive, no program comfort, no handshake of familiar aroma, just air, true air that smells like pine bark after heat or wet stone. Or sometimes nothing at all. There are no smart walls here, no morning plans, no feedback, algorithms. Children learn not through vaporized story clouds or rhymic prompts, but by holding soil in their hands. They learn to smell individual things: an orange peel from the tree, not a synthesized citrus joy note. But what's most striking isn't what they reject, it's what they recover. In one off-grid sanctuary known as the Hollow Ridge, built into the upper cliffs of post-collapse Andorra, elders preserve what they call true smell memory: raw, unencoded scent tied not to programming, but to story. One elder, a woman named Marisol, holds in her hut a collection of scent relics: an old carved bottle of ship oil from her ancestors' migration across a flooded coastline, a handful of burnt paper from the last free press before the first olfactory mesh protocols were introduced, a ribbon that once belonged to someone she loved, kept not for its color, but for the way it still smells faintly of mint and ink and heartbreak. She speaks softly when visitors arrive. No grand statements, just an invitation: smell this, tell me what it says, then tell me what it doesn't. In cities, scent is optimized, every molecule with a purpose, but here, in these unscented enclaves, ambiguity is sacred. Scent is allowed to be muddy, complex, confusing, the way it used to be. Before calibration, before scent became truth. Not everyone can live this way. There are trade-offs: no mood regulation, no emergency olfactory guidance, identity scent recognition, which means no access to many public systems. These people are ghosts to the global mesh. Their doors are still opened by hands, their memories still triggered by wind. not programming, and yet they endure, some say even thrive. There's a stillness to their lives. Those in the cities envy, quietly, a kind of raw connection, where the smell of someone's hair or coat or room isn't a setting but a story. Contrast this with the life inside the aromatic cloud district, an orbital habitat built into the upper stratosphere, where residents live entirely in programmable atmosphere. Every room, every corridor, every chair and utensil emits personalized scent feedback. Walls change aroma based on blood pressure. Your sleep is dictated by neural scent alignment. Even disagreements between friends are mediated by cloud scent de-escalation blends, slowly released through ventilation filters. Some residents never smell anything that isn't curated. Some have never known their partner's real skin. Some haven't smelled earth. That's not to say one life is better than the other. But in this moment when humanity can sculpt air itself, the contrast becomes philosophy. Do we trust our noses, or do we outsource them? Do we let the world smell like itself, or do we make it smell the way we feel it should? The unscented say this: the truth has a scent. It isn't always pretty, but it's yours. And so we float between futures, one encoded with emotion, memory, identity, and one stripped bare. Both human, both fragile, both breathing in their own way. Perhaps that is the future's greatest irony. As we grow more sophisticated in our control of air, the most radical choice is to let it be wild again. And now we exhale. You've walked through Istanbul in the year 3000, felt the quiet precision of a world sculpted by scent. You've met the architect of that transformation, traced the outlines of mystery in the scentless zones, and stood still in the air of those who've chosen to live without any of it. What does it mean? What does it mean that scent, so often overlooked, so deeply intimate, could become the spine of civilization? Perhaps it's already happening. Even now, studies show that memories linked to smell are more vivid, more emotional, more resilient to time. That grandmother's coat, favorite book's pages, a summer breeze heavy with jasmine or dust, or electricity. We are already coded with this language. We just haven't learned to write with it. The future didn't create the importance of scent. It simply remembered it. And what about us here in the quiet dark of the 2020s, where memory clings to laundry detergent, where comfort smells like someone's hoodie, where fear, oddly, has the faint tang of hospital sanitizer? We're already building our olfactory history. We just call it something else. We call it life. So tonight, as you drift off or perhaps stare at the ceiling a little longer, consider what future air you'd want to live in. What smell would you give to hope? What scent would you want to remember you by 1,000 years from now? Would it be the crisp green of early rain, the warm syrup of an old bakery, the dusty spice of a market at dusk? You don't need to answer now. The future has time, and until then, we breathe together. This was Midnight Futurist. Thank you for listening. Good night.